lobby. Let's all go to the lobby, lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to Now Slain, an It Slays podcast production where we break down the latest and greatest in the world of horror. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
I'm Jill.
Yeah, if you didn't know, we have Jill on the show again because Colton was tired. He just said, I gotta give it over to the foreign correspondent.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta take a break. It's okay, Colton.
That's how we're doing it. So, trusted the ship with us. I don't know how smart that was.
Not smart.
But tonight we are reviewing Hellraiser 2022, which is a remake that came out, I guess, technically yesterday. We're recording this. It's like almost 2 a.m. my time on Saturday. But it came out Friday evening. So let's start off, Jill. How familiar are you with Hellraiser and kind of Hellraiser as a, iconic horror movie, but also as like a series of movies? And also let us know, were you looking forward to this remake?
Yeah, so actually we kind of talked about this in, like, the last episode, I think it was, when I first saw the first Hellraiser film. Last month, and so far it's still the only one I've seen besides this one. So I'm like the worst person for this, but like also the best person because I only know the first one, but I don't know shit about anything else. So yeah, I really liked it. It really stuck with me and became like really quickly one of my favorite horror films. And even though I've only seen it just now, I still have this like nostalgic attachment to it. And then my friend told me that they were remaking this movie with a female Pinhead, and there was like a lot of drama about it, and I was like, that sounds really good. So I've been looking forward to it, and I think they're also making a series on another streaming platform relatively in the near future. But yeah, so one of the things for me is like I didn't really do much research about this, so I kind of expected this to be a whole remake of the first movie, like same plot and everything. So I was like super surprised when I watched it, and it was a whole new plot. But it was still really good.
And I was going to say, so for me, I've talked about it, a ton of times, that this is like in my top 5 horror movies. I think the very first episode we ever did of It Slays, we listed our top 5 favorite horror movies, and I'm pretty sure this made the cut, for me. I have super nostalgia for this. I saw this when I was like probably 5 or under, and I always watched it. I've owned it on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray. This is one of my mom's favorite horror movies. So she showed this to me when I was a kid, so I have like that nostalgia to it. I don't know how messed that up that is as an adult now that she was showing.
That's awesome.
Showing me this leather BDSM gory slimy horror movie, but I love it. And then I had heard the grumblings, the mumblings of this being remade. They've been trying to remake Hellraiser forever. It was one of those projects that just seemed it was always stuck in developmental hell. And then, I'd say within the last year or two, we kind of got very confusing for me because we were told, oh, there's a movie coming. And then kind of at the exact same time, they were like, oh, also HBO's working on this show and it's Hellraiser also. So I was always like, what? Maybe there's something going on here. From my understanding, this definitely got the blessing of Clive Barker, but I think he has more to do with the show coming from HBO. I think he's like an actual writer. I don't think he's directing it. So, when I heard this was coming, I was excited. I love this movie. I was super excited to see, them go in a different direction with Pinhead, which, is kind of what they started to announce. So, let's get into the trailer. We'll get into the bio, and then we will be back to talk about it.
It's time. Save the breath for screaming.
So Hellraiser 2022 is directed by David Bruckner and written by Luke Petrowski and Ben Collins, and the bio is as follows. Unlock your fears. A young woman struggling with addiction comes into possession of an ancient puzzle box, unaware that its purpose is to summon the Cenobites, a group of sadistic supernatural beings from another dimension. So us here at It Slays on Now Slaying like to keep it spoiler free to start off with. So, Jill, I am going to ask you your spoiler-free thoughts on Hellraiser 2022.
All right. So I think the biggest thing for me about this film is that it was really beautiful visually. Like, it was a really nice treat to look at. Yeah, so I really like what they did with the Cenobites. I think in the first part, all of the main Cenobites were all female, and I thought that was pretty cool. But later on, they added in some male ones, if they even have gender. But the biggest thing that I really liked was that it was like really pretty looking, but in a really grotesque way. Like, the pins had like that nice pearl end, and they were just like dainty, but they were like strategically placed to be super disgusting, like in between tendons on the hand, and I don't know, it was disgusting, but it looked really good. And on Pinhead also, the makeup was really well done, all the costumes were really nice. They had this like really cool like gold thing on like her trachea, and the way that they like lift up all the skin and everything was really cool. I don't know, I really liked how everything looked, especially the Cenobites, but also like all the puzzle things in like that mansion. They spend a lot of, I'm sorry if that's a spoiler, they spend a lot of time in the mansion, and it's like all really intricate, mazy and puzzly, but it all serves a purpose, and I think that's really cool. So that's my biggest thing, is that it is really beautiful, and I think the climax of the movie is also pretty epic.
I thought like you, I mean, this definitely has a like a sheen to it. I was a pretty big fan of David Bruckner's other horror entries, which he directed The Ritual as well as Night House, and I was a pretty big fan of Night House, and he definitely has a look to his films. They're like very clean, I guess very, almost like, I wouldn't say like an elevated horror, but just like a very modern look, modern cleanness to them, which, I mean, I think to me helps and doesn't help with it. I think kind of the beauty of the original Hellraiser is that it's like gritty, and it doesn't have that sheen, and it's just like gory and slimy. And I think the best description ever of it was, I think the first time I ever watched it with Exilia, she said that watching it made her feel gross. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what Clive Barker wanted this to feel like.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed that I felt it didn't have that kind of look. I mean, I don't think you would ever pull that look off today, just with like digital and all that kind of stuff. I was pretty big fan. I thought they did a good job with the score. The fanboy in me got really excited. That I was a little concerned because they made you wait like 45 minutes till they finally just give you like those strokes of the original score. And I was like, oh, like I love the score from the original film. And I thought they incorporated chords and stuff from it really well. The cinematography looked beautiful, just like I said. Like, I thought they did a really good job, especially in the latter half of this, where I'll get more into it in the spoiler section, but I think this movie definitely flips halfway through it into what it is trying to do and what kind of horror movie it's kind of trying to be like. But yeah, I'd say really the biggest thing for me would be if you're planning on going to watch this and you're only going to listen to our spoiler-free thoughts on it, is don't go, like Jill said, don't go in expecting it to be like a shot-for-shot remake or just a remake like we see so many of that is just retelling the story. This really is like its own thing. They change some of the rules of the game in this, and you know, the Cenobites act differently. They like everything's different. It's kind of David Bruckner's own vision of it. So before we get into the spoiler section, would you recommend people watch this? Is it worth their time?
I think so. I think it takes a little bit to kind of get into it, especially like we just said, if you're expecting something like the original, it's more like a modern sequel than anything, or like a retelling, but not the same story. And one thing that I didn't like about it, and this is a very tiny nitpick, is that the first one felt really Clive Barkery. I mean, the original, it felt, it was like really British, and it was dark and spooky and gritty, and this one is like glossy and it's new and it's very like Gen Z. It's also like Americanized more and modernized. So I don't know how I feel about it being so Americanized, but like I said, it's a departure, but it's a good departure. And also, the pacing was a little bit slower, so it takes a while to kind of get into it, but it's worth it. It's like a slow burn.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. Like, I think it's worth a watch. To me, I'd hope that if you're not familiar with Hellraiser, maybe, I know a lot of people that don't like to watch older horror movies. They only really like, 2010 and onwards. That I'm hoping if you watch this, it opens your curiosity up to, check out at least the first two movies. I know this franchise is kind of made fun of that pretty much after two, that it just kind of gets ridiculous and into some straight to VHS, just really bad movies. But, 1 and 2, I think, are kind of real classics, and especially in this. So hopefully it'll help people to, rediscover what Hellraiser is all about. So with that, let's stop tiptoeing, because me and Jill are terrible. We're the two probably worst people to not spoil things. So let's cut on over to the spoiler section. So, spoilers. Now we can talk, Jill. Now we can talk and not tiptoe and not have, Colton listening to this episode and being like, man, what are these guys doing? I think it's important. I do want to talk about Jamie Clayton for a little bit, because I think that's kind of, if for some reason you're listening to this section and you're just not going to watch the movie, or you went and watched the movie, that's what everyone wants to talk about. We want to talk about how is this Pinhead compared to the old Pinhead. And I think Jamie held her own. I was very skeptical, just because, Pinhead is such an iconic character that I was really worried. But I knew I shouldn't have been, because amazingly enough, we don't call her Pinhead. Which is amazing, because, Clive Barker has always said that, the fans called him Pinhead. I never called him Pinhead. He didn't like Pinhead. In books after the Hellbound Heart, where Pinhead showed up, he was always called like the Hell Priest, which in this one, I think she is credited as the priest. I was pretty impressed that, it was called the Hell Priest. I did really like the effects they used on her voice.
Yes.
That was another thing that really worried me, because obviously, with Bradley, they put a lot of effects on his voice, so it's like this very menacing, angelic, but like demonic voice. And I was like, oh, are they just going to have Jamie talk? And it's like, are they going to really like feminize the voice, or what are they going to do? And I just thought it was like the perfect effect, where it was just like a beam, but it wasn't masculine. It wasn't feminine. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I think it's really funny that you just called Doug Bradley, his voice heavenly. Like what kind of, anyway, Moving on. I really like the voice too. That was one thing I was worried about, and they took their sweet time kind of like honing in on that. Like there's so much suspense about it. And it's a long time before you get to see her in the movie as well. Like it's
Yeah.
not like the first one where it's like, immediately it's there. You wait a long time to see her, and when you do, it's glorious. She looks amazing. And then the voice as well, it's like it's perfect. It's like you said, it's not really genderized, but it's very powerful and it's like kind of scary. I don't know. She was definitely my favorite thing about the whole movie. 100%.
Yeah, well, and I think that was a interesting but good play. I also thought was, I mean, one of my criticisms of the movie is I think there's like probably a strong 80-minute movie in this. I don't think it needed to be 2 hours. I thought it was a little dragged out. The characters were almost too likable, I thought. I mean, Clive Barker is, especially with Hellraiser, I mean, the characters usually are not likable, and that's kind of its thing. Like, you don't ever feel bad. These are kind of like bad people that are seeking out these pleasures and sensations and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, I thought it was interesting that we waited so long, and it definitely paid off. I'm gonna say I didn't love the other Cenobites. Unlike you, I wasn't a fan of the costumes. I wasn't.
Oh, really?
I wasn't feeling the skin as like the clothes. And I mean, I'm sure that's just because I love, like, the leather look. I think the original costumes are so iconic.
That's true.
I mean, it also, like I said, in the non-spoiler, that has to do with the skin costumes is because the movie has this sheen that's just kind of like new movie sheen. I was like, they should be way more gory and gruesome, and I thought they looked too clean, and I was just like, they're not slimy, they're not like, I don't feel gross. I want to feel gross. I want them to creep me out. I wasn't feeling anyone else other than the Hell Priest. That was pretty much it. And like most modern movies, I just thought, I don't know, the main cast, like, I don't know, I just really didn't care about them. I was like, okay, like, the main character's like an addict. You're dealing with this addiction. I was like, whatever. I was like, I think just because of the history, I was like, all right, let's just get to the chains. Let's just get these chains, grabbing and pulling apart these people.
Yeah, the chains are really cool.
I'm interested in your thoughts on kind of the twist in it, because what I found was interesting with Bruckner's decision to kind of wait an hour, and then I felt it kind of went like a haunted house type theme.
Oh, yeah.
More so than like the first act, which was just kind of visions. So I was just like interested in your thoughts. I thought it definitely was a stronger second half than it was in the first.
I agree. In the beginning, it took me a while to kind of get warmed up to it, especially the very beginning where it's leading into like the box and everything. The actor that played the guy who gets sacrificed, he was like really like Twilight acting awkward, and I was like, is this whole movie gonna be like this? Because if so, it's gonna be terrible. But that was just him. Yeah, I really like that. Like the hidden walls and the hidden doors and all the buttons, it was super cool. It was really intricate with like all the metal mazes that they use and things like that. But I really like the double walls thing and how they have the Vite guy just like chilling in there waiting. Also, talking about that guy, I was like perplexed about how he had like all of this like machinery inside of his body, and he's like wearing a suit and it's like a little bloody and stuff, but like how does he spend all this time like this? And like, does he get dressed every day? And like, how does this work? But anyway,
I kind of assumed that was just the suit he was wearing when it happened to him, and he just hasn't changed out of the suit.
Too clean, bro.
I mean, unless he's just getting custom suits made here with tears in them. And
the
I
only
mean,
way.
Voight was kind of my other big issue with it, because I just think Frank from the original is such a good villain.
He was such an asshole.
Such an asshole. We're like, to me, like, Voight, yeah, he sacrifices that guy at the beginning, but it was like, I just didn't feel that disgusted or angry at him. Like, Frank in the original, I'm like, yeah, fuck this guy. Like,
It's nasty.
this guy's banging, like, Buddy's wife and
Yeah.
all this stuff. Where, like, Voight, I was like, okay, like, we saw him, like, sacrifice this one person, but that's it. Like, we don't really know anything else about him. Like, we don't really know until the ending of this movie, like, what his pursuits were for this. So, like, there was no motivation for the entire film, which I thought was a weird choice. I'm very interested, I think, to finding out now that it's out, I guess, what kind of studio expectations were put on this. Because, and I say this, I don't know if I say this meanly or not, because anyone that knows, I'm a big fan of, like, the Escape Room movie. Like, I thought that was, like, awesome PG teen horror, but, like, that's the vibes I was getting, which is not the vibes I want in Hellraiser. It's like I said, I just felt like the gore was muted, like, everything was just kind of like, we could go to this extreme, but we're gonna, like, bring it back a little bit so that it's more accessible to people.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, to me, I think that's really what kind of holds this movie back from being, like, an awesome reimaging, is just the fact that, like, you should have went gorier. There's so many scenes that, like, we either, like, quickly cut away, or, like, we just get implied gore, or,
Yeah.
like, gore's about to happen and then something happens and it stops and it doesn't. And I was just like, if this was the original, if this was Clive Barker's, like, we would uncomfortably stay on this gore, and it would be these awesome, gooey practical effects and camera tricks, but unfortunately, that didn't happen.
Yeah, they very much tried to stray away from that. Like, when people were sacrificed and the chains were pulling them apart, like, you would just see a little splatter. Sometimes just a splatter, that's it. And so they really do shy away from that, which is, like, what I really liked about the original is, like, that really cheap looking, like, dirty blood. Like, it's
Yeah.
I love it. And it's not here, and I wonder if that's, like, a conscious decision because they're trying to, make it more modern. I don't know if, like, the newer generations are, like, really, are they into gore? Because I feel like they're pandering to that a little bit with other aspects of the movie. So I'm just wondering if that's a part of it.
I mean, it very well could be, because, I mean, that was kind of the weird, you talk about the Gen Z territory. That was, like, the weird way I felt watching this, because I was like, oh, man, I'm really not that guy. But I was like, this movie, like, I was like, they're definitely pandering to, like, these archetypes of, like, modern horror. So I was like, we have, like, the addict, we have, like, the gay brother, the gay brother's friend. But I was like, none of these people are ever explored outside of these just, like, typical archetypes. Like, oh, like, we have a gay guy in it. Like, oh,
Yeah.
like, I mean, it's not impressive that you did that. Like, make them characters.
Make them
like,
likable, give them depth, because they certainly really didn't have that, which was sad. Even the main character, she was cool, but I don't know, they could have done more there.
I think, Clive Barker himself would argue that, his main girl in the original, I mean, Clive Barker hated her. After they made the movie. And, I didn't think she did great in that. So maybe this is just like a tradition of having bad female leads in the Hellraiser movies. I thought competent. Competent is the word I'm looking. Like, she was competent.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't think she was great, but she was competent in what this was. And I think everything we're kind of saying, it just kind of goes when people talk about, like, this kind of new age, like, CW horror, where it's just like, I was very upset this wasn't going to theater, and now that I've watched it, I'm kind of like, yeah, no, I'm like, this was, like, made just for, like, people that, watch the CW and just want something that's pretty easy to digest, and you don't really
Jesus.
have to think very much. And that's just kind of the vibe I got from it, where I just think the legacy and like what you can do with this, and especially like I said, like this is what was disappointing to me about these archetypes of the gay characters is like the original Hellraiser, especially looked at now is like a iconic kind of, queer horror film now. Like, it's looked at it in that lens. I mean, how can you not? And it's just so many awesome things in it that are kind of unintentional. So to me, I was just like, I feel like we should be taking that kind of reflection and thoughts on how we look at the original, and like where you could really do some stuff with this and really kind of, talk about stuff and themes. And it's just like, no, we just want to be like, it's a movie that people will talk about for a week, and then
It's very safe. They made very safe decisions when it came to like the plot and characters, but they went all out on the visuals. Like the characters in the original are very polarized. Like you like them or you hate them or whatever. And here you've got a drug addict, but it's all very gray. Like obviously she's trying to get better, so you have sympathy for her. And everyone else, they're not a total piece of shit, except for, like a couple people, and even then they don't have much depth to them. So it's very safe.
I felt we got like a little glimpse of what could have been at the ending. Like I did like when Voight kind of, gets lifted up and yeah, and kind of gets turned into a Cenobite as his, punishment or reward, depending on how you want to look at it. And I thought that was cool. I was like, this is kind of what I was expecting. Like they rip off the skin on his mouth and
it was nasty.
All over the place, and I was like, this is cool. And I was almost accepting of like the costume change with the Cenobites, where I was like, this is cool. Like we're seeing how they make the outfits on them. But it was just, yeah, like other than that, like I just felt like a lot of the kills were just like, it was kind of like whatever, like okay, like there wasn't anything amazing that I was like, oh yeah, this is awesome.
I really like the Nora kill.
Oh yeah?
Where the Cenobite takes out the pin and
Yeah.
like slowly, like I think they put it like through her cheeks or something. That was really cool, and they did it very like slowly and intentionally, so you could see everything. That was probably like my favorite kill. I know we're not doing that, but I wanted to.
I would say to me that was probably the second best one.
Oh, okay.
Whatever.
What's number one?
I'm saying number one is the ending. To me, I guess he doesn't really die, but
right.
I did appreciate that, and I like it because obviously they've opened it up to that they can, we can continue to make these. I know Clive Barker's been on the record that said he enjoyed consulting with David Bruckner, and he hopes that he wants to continue. I mean, of course, Clive Barker wants to continue. He's getting paid for these.
Oh, I was going to say Doug Bradley as well. I don't know if it's so much a blessing, but I know that he really liked the costumes and makeup and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's cool to know.
Yeah, well, I think it's great that, like I said, to me, all my complaints are kind of personal preferences. So,
That's cool.
I mean, you
It's valid.
Listen to me or you don't listen to me, whatever. It doesn't matter. The only other real kind of complaint I had to it is I didn't like the addition to the lore of that the box like grants a wish, which was really, to me, kind of like weird. I mean, I get it. They kind of needed it in there to push the story with her trying to get the brother back. Which, like I said, is where I think it just falls apart, because in all the original ones, like these guys or gals who get the box are they're kind of pieces of shit. They've seen everything, they've been everywhere, they want all the pleasures of life. They're just like greedy people. So it's like, once they get that pain for pleasure, like, it's awesome. Where this, it was just kind of like, yeah, I was like, now I've got to, like, feel good for these characters. I want them to escape and all that stuff. I just want these guys to be pieces of shit. I just want to see them get ripped apart by chains. I will say a big plus was I definitely high-pitched screamed and loved it when the Hell Priest, they did make sure that she said, "We have such sights to show you," which obviously is like the iconic Pinhead line. And I was just like, yes, fuck yes. Like, anything like that just strokes my fanboy love.
The fan service.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess overall for me, I would just say, take it what it is. Hopefully you're watching this and you're using your Pinussie at the same time.
Oh, yeah. Check out Pinussies.
Yeah, Jill showed me a picture of them. It's just a fleshlight, but Pinhead. So if you're into having sex with fleshlights and having like pins pushed into your skin at the same time.
Yeah, it's very a niche market, but
yeah, I only own like 5 or 6 of them. So
I have like 10.
Oh, jeez.
But since the Christmas season is upon us, you can use a quote from the movie: "Gifts cannot be ungiven. Exchanges can only be made." If someone gives you a shitty gift this Christmas, just quote
I like
Hellraiser.
that.
There you go.
Are we good to go in the rating?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, so our rating system is nay, okay, yay, or slay. Jill, what would you give Hellraiser?
Ah, dear. I think I'm gonna have to go with a yay. I really liked it visually. The only qualms I had with it were, like we said, the plot could have been a little bit deeper, and I went in like an idiot expecting kind of the first movie, and this is kind of like a sequel, really. But anyway, yeah, so I like it. Go watch it. It's a yay for me.
And I am going to give it an okay.
Okay.
Like I said, I had a lot of issues with it. I think you're better off just to watch the original one and the second one. This does leave me curious about how the TV show is going to work out and what they're going to do with that. I'm all for more of these being made, I guess, sequels. Like, I am interested to see how they go, just because I enjoyed, like, the Hell Priest so much that I thought they did a really great job on that. I wanted to see more of her. But other than that, yeah, like I said with the recommend, like, watch it because everyone else is watching it in the next couple weeks. It's spooky season, so watch it. But I feel like most new horror movies, this probably isn't gonna have like a lasting effect on people, and it's just gonna kind of come and go, sadly. So yeah, just an okay from me. So all that is left really is to do some shameless promo, which I haven't done in forever, because normally Colton is on these and he's doing it. So if you want to follow us on social media, we're on everything like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Slasher, Tumblr. If there's a social media, we're probably on it. It Slays Podcast on everything. Also, go to Spotify because it is spooky season. Yeah, get some spooky music on. I'm adding stuff to the playlist every day from movies we review or iconic horror movies that we love. So go to Spotify. It's the It Slays Podcast Horrific Playlist. Also on all our social media and our link tree, there's a link to it. And you can, go click it and listen to it. If there's anything else to promote, I can't remember. So, guess what? This is the kind of hosting job you get on Now Slaying when Colton isn't here.
God damn it, Colton.
But, thanks to Jill for joining us. You guys are going to be listening to this on a Sunday this weekend, and we will be having Jill again on the full episode because we will be doing Trick or Treat. So, yeah, make sure to get ready and watch Trick or Treat. Get your eardrums for that. I'm sure we'll be a lot more prepared for the big full episode. Yeah, and I think that's everything for now. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for listening. And if you keep listening, we'll keep slaying.